Hey everybody, it's me, Waifu Belector, the only fair human on Earth, and 2023 is finally just about over. The gaming year is certainly over, and so now I can talk about the best games to come out of this year. A year with a lot of choices, honestly, because there were great games littered all throughout just about every month of 2023. If you ask me, 2023 is the greatest year in gaming history. I know I'm not the first person to say that, but I agree with it. I don't think any other year can compete with both the quality and the output of 2023. There's been too much good shit this year, and it has come out too frequently for this not to be the greatest year in gaming. Anyway, in this sea of great games, what I'm gonna do now is give you what I think are the top 10 games to be released this year in order from 10 to 1. This is to be an objective list, well, as objective as you can get when critiquing the subjective world of entertainment media. So yes, it is what I subjectively view to be an objective list of subjective material. Point is, my list is fair, my list is honest, my list is well considered. And it is because of that you will not like it. Things are not where they're allegedly supposed to be. This is not a mass-pleasing list. It's a true list of the 10 best games of 2023. I think you'll agree with some of the games on here, but you won't agree with the order they're in. But as I said, my list is very fair, and I hope you'll consider it. All in all, this is a celebratory video, not a review video, so I'll be focusing on what's good about all these games, and if you're looking for something to play, hopefully you'll come away knowing what to download next. Alright, let's be fair. At number 10, we have Super Mario Wonder. You know, Mario and his mainline games, as well as his 2D side-scrolling games that used to be the mainline games, are the most taken for granted games in existence. And I'm kind of guilty of it too, I can't lie. Because these games are fucking quality. And when you get quality over and over again, you start to view it as unremarkable, even though if you just have the perspective to look outside of it for a sec, you'd actually be able to see it for its true greatness again. My point is that Mario has been great for so long that we almost don't acknowledge it anymore. I mean, we go, oh, there's Mario, he's great again, but, you know, people shout and scream from the rooftops about much lesser games. Super Mario Wonder is a great time, and it actually bothers to add an air of freshness over something we all think we know. New, fun, variety-based mechanics and levels that make it damn near impossible to get bored before the end, and even providing us with some aggressively challenging secret world levels that are a fucking pleasure to lose to. And the co-op is fucking outstanding. If you have the ability to play this game in co-op, it's so funny, it's so fun. You can't go wrong if you choose to pick this game up. Yes, it's Mario again. Yes, he's great again, but he's still top 10. Now for number 9, the very out of nowhere Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was surprise dropped very early in the year by Tango Gameworks of the Evil Within fame and took the wider gaming populace by storm. And for good reason. The quality and care put into Hi-Fi Rush is unbelievable. It's a rhythm action platformer that executes the aspects of each of those genres at a high level, while also making the particular genre of rhythm action quite accessible when it typically is not. I think anybody can play Hi-Fi Rush, and more importantly, just about anybody can have fun with it. Because the game is just fun. A colorful, outrageously well-animated game with a lighthearted comedic tone that feels very contrast to the doom and gloom of current media, in a great way. And like Super Mario Wonder, Hi-Fi also boasts very impressive pacing. They know when to give you new abilities, they know when to have you stop doing something, they know when to give you new enemies, they know when the game should wrap up. It's a charming, fun time, an impressive mashup of rhythm action combat and 3D platformer collectible hunting, all wrapped in a AAA package fueled by an indie soul. Xbox might not have had much this year, but they did have Hi-Fi Rush. But now it's time for number 8. Hogwarts Legacy. Listen, I was saying this to a friend the other day. If you would have told me going into this year that I would not only enjoy Hogwarts Legacy more than the new Mortal Kombat game, but also that I would objectively believe Hogwarts to be better, I would have told you that you were a fucking idiot. And yet, here we are. Hogwarts Legacy, like every single game I'll be focusing on in this video, is a great game, and a thoroughly impressive first outing from Portkey Games, who up to this point had only done mobile titles. But you wouldn't know it playing Hogwarts Legacy. This is a real true-to-life, high-quality open-world RPG that doesn't simply rest on the strength of its IP, but instead aims to enhance the IP with its own value. The spells are really fun to use, especially in some of the slightly more challenging combat scenarios. It's even fun to just be a student. There are also some puzzles in this game that I just adore. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, although I've seen all the movies, but I can only imagine how much more you can get out of this by being a huge geek for the wizarding world. And listen, I know I'm not supposed to like this game or acknowledge its value because everyone hates J.K. Rowling, but this game is worthy of praise. These developers love Harry Potter like you do, they're upset with J.K. Rowling like you are, and they don't want to throw away the thing that they love because of her. So I'm gonna acknowledge their work if I feel like it's worth acknowledging. And it is. Hogwarts Legacy is not just a good game if you're a Harry Potter fan. I am completely indifferent toward the franchise, and I had a great time. If you want a big RPG to get sucked into, consider this one. But enough of that. Let's move on to number 7, Tears of the Kingdom. And I told you things weren't gonna be where you think they should be, but I'm not gonna defend myself. I'm gonna stick to my guns and only talk about what's good about this game. If you must know more about any of these games, I've talked about all of them on my channel. Most of them have their own dedicated videos. A couple are in my super review video where I packed a bunch of games into one. And for Tears of the Kingdom specifically, I did a video called Why Tears of the Kingdom is the Best Game Ever Made, where I was kinda sarcastically taking the mick out of the Zelda and Nintendo fans. But anyway, let's talk about what's great about this game. First of all, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a better game than its predecessor in basically every way. But it doesn't lose what was fun about Breath of the Wild. In fact, if you like Breath of the Wild, you'll love this, because essentially what we have here is the same game but sharpened up and refined to its highest level. All the freedom to sequence break the game and completely shatter the way puzzles are meant to be solved is still there and reinforced even more. And puzzles are of course where the game actually shines. This ability that Tears of the Kingdom has to kinda put your brain on display, to let the physics and your own creativity be the solution to problems whose true solution you may never figure out, that is amazing. And it's an aspect and design philosophy of Tears of the Kingdom that single-handedly carries it to greatness. Seeing if you can snap together some contraption, exploit your powers, or some combination of the two in a way that lets you bypass the game, even though it's designed with you bypassing the game in mind. In a lot of scenarios, it's kind of like Tears of the Kingdom dares you to cheat, and if you can, it applauds you for it. A fantastic example of what it means to encourage creativity. But, okay, on to the next. We now arrive at our number 6, Spider-Man 2. And I have to say, my favorite improvement that Spider-Man 2 implemented over the first game is that the combat will actually challenge you in places. The overall engagement of combat is made much better, and yes, in comparison with the first game, we're still looking at a game with a good story, with great gameplay that nails what it should be to play as Spider-Man. We're looking at some fun puzzles, outstanding traversal, and Spider-Man 2 keeps from becoming a messy jumble in its storytelling, even though you might think it would turn into that given that both Miles and Peter are present. But it keeps Peter as the focal point, and by having that focus, it keeps from becoming a mess. Not to mention the open world is just a lot more approachable than in the last game, and certain activities are more streamlined. So even though on paper Spider-Man 1 and 2 have similar amounts to do, the cadence of activity is more refined and attractive in Spider-Man 2. I'm probably not telling you anything that you didn't know by saying you can't go wrong picking this game up to play. But alright, we are now entering the top 5, and here as the 5th best game of 2023, I have Baldur's Gate 3, the Game Awards 2023 Game of the Year. You might have noticed by now though, this is not the Game Awards. This is Waifu Belector's fair list of great games. And again, I'm not here to critique these games, so let's talk about what makes Baldur's Gate 3 so great. If you want to hear me talk about the other side of the coin, check out my super review video, which has a timestamp to the Baldur's Gate part. Anyway, Baldur's Gate 3 is better than a great game. It's a really great game. It's a game that has reminded reminded everyone what the role-playing part of role-playing game even means. It means freedom of choice, but what is freedom of choice without many choices to be made? Well, Larian Studios must have thought about that because oh boy do you have a lot of choices to make throughout this game. Meaningful narrative choices that change outcomes, as well as combat and gameplay choices that make it possible to engage the game completely differently from other players. The RPG aspects of Baldur's Gate 3 are so abundant, it almost makes you wonder how some of these other games dare flaunt the title of RPG with anything less. If you're looking for freedom of choice, if you're looking for an RPG that fully hangs its hat on that genre, there may not be a better choice in the history of gaming than Baldur's Gate 3. It's not an action RPG, it's not a shooter RPG, it's not a massively multiplayer online live service buzzword RPG, it's just an RPG. It's the RPG. Pure and simple. Ironic because of its RPG-ness, it actually isn't very simple, but it is a very great game. So now on to number 4, and this lined up pretty well I think because number 4 is Resident Evil 4. The remake of course. And I know there are some people who think this game doesn't count because it's a remake, so they feel that this is just an old game, and I've got to be honest, I think those people have some delusions about how the original game felt, looked, played, and presented itself. RE4 Remake is not the same game, it's a different game, it's a better game. Hell, you couldn't even walk and shoot in the original. I honestly think if you let someone play RE4 Remake and then gave them the original, they'd be nearly incapable of having fun with the original game because of its obvious inferiority. I think you need that nostalgia and a degree of delusion in regard to the original in order to disregard the remake as the same game. But whatever. Resident Evil 4 Remake is fucking awesome. A cool kinda hammy zombie killing adventure that is fairly challenging and made better because of that challenge. It's funny how it's so opposite tonally to the Resident Evil 2 remake, but just as fucking good. And the pace of the game and the weight and flow to its action make it pretty damn easy to just keep on playing. It's games like this that just say, here's what we're trying to do, and then just execute it nearly flawlessly, that have this sense of undeniability about them, where even if it isn't quite your thing, I think you'll come away from this game saying, okay, that was great. I had fun. Because it is great. At a base level, it's undeniably great. Go buy Resident Evil 4 Remake. I think when you're done, you'll be hard pressed to recall moments where you just flat out weren't enjoying the game. And you know what? I'll leave it at that. And now we enter the top 3. And I promise you, all 3 are games that I'm not supposed to rate this highly. Not if I'm going for mass appeal. You know, the masses make up their minds on these things well beforehand. Tears of the Kingdom was acceptable to call Game of the Year before it even came out. Whereas my number 3, Street Fighter 6, never stood a chance because fighting games cannot be Game of the Year or anywhere near it. And the nerve of me to put a fighting game on here and it not even be the ultra popular Mortal Kombat, the only acceptable fighting game to mention to the masses. But nah, fuck that. Street Fighter 6 isn't just the best fighting game to come out this year, it is one of the best video games to come out this year. As you can see, it is my number 3 best game of the year. And that is because there are very few games that nailed their game this hard. I've said before, when I judge games, I'm asking, what is the game trying to do? Are they good ideas? How well did you execute those ideas? And how much fun is it? Street Fighter 6 is fun as fuck and absolutely nails very nearly every single thing it's trying to do. They've revitalized their franchise and its gameplay in a way that puts its current competitor MK1 to shame. Street Fighter 6 is bursting at the seams with so much swagger and confidence in itself, and that confidence that the devs put in has an obvious effect on how it feels to experience the game. You feel cool because the game knows it's cool, and the game knows it's cool because the devs made it that way. There's personality at every corner of Street Fighter 6 and more reasons to play than ever before in a Street Fighter game, with the World Tour mode alone being well worth your money. But to have the entire rest of the game at your disposal with nary a hair out of place is something to be held up. I don't care that the fighting game genre is a niche one. Street Fighter 6 is not just a game for fighting game fans, it's not just for Street Fighter fans, it's a fantastic game for people who like fantastic games, and that's it. Now let's talk about number 2, another game that I'm supposed to hate for some reason, Diablo 4. Dude, let me explain what is so fucking great about Diablo 4. Have you ever been to a fancy restaurant and gotten some sort of fancy order, and while you're eating it, you're just thinking, this is just okay. I know it's fancy and I'm supposed to love it, but it's not that good. And you can't help but just want a McDonald's burger or some other fast food or frozen food or allegedly bad food. And you want it because it tastes better. Well, Diablo is that meal that you're craving. Everyone is telling you it's no good for you, you shouldn't eat that, and that things that taste worse are somehow better. It's not true. Diablo is peak video game fun. Running in dungeons, killing huge hordes of monsters, looting and equipping things with higher numbers, constantly respecking abilities and trying different builds, partying up for a multiplayer experience that pretty easily trumps all others this year, and hell, why not have a decent little story thrown on top? I played over 100 hours of Diablo 4 this year, well beyond the time it takes to beat the campaign. I was just having too much fun. This is peak dungeon crawling and looting. It's fun, it's addictive, it's quality, and I'm supposed to pretend to hate it because they have premium cosmetics that cost money? Oh, fuck that. That's stupid. There are already a ton of cool cosmetics for free in the game, and I'm supposed to act like this game is shit because some optional cosmetics are too expensive or there's a battle pass? I played 80 hours of this shit before there was a battle pass. I point that out to say you don't need to buy the battle pass. There is a whole full game and then some available for the price of the game. Don't let an option to purchase optional cosmetics and battle pass horse armor be the reason why you can't have fun. That shit makes zero sense. Go play Diablo 4. It's perfect dumb fun. I fucking love it. But okay, now the grand finale. What I think was the number one game of 2023. My game of the year, if you will, is Jedi Survivor. It is also the most underrated game to come out this year, and I feel is hurt by the enormous strength of its IP, as well as how early in the year it was released, recency bias and all that. But my god, this game is nothing short of perfection. And spoiler alert, if you haven't played it, I'm not gonna hold my tongue about anything. Go check out my Jedi Survivor video from earlier this year if you want a spoiler-free take, but right now, I don't care. Jedi Survivor does everything right. There is no such thing as a truly perfect game, but this is as close as things tend to get. This game is more than an everything is better in the sequel situation, even though everything is better, but there's also more. And the more is so appropriately added. It's not more for more's sake. It's more because the game benefited from more. I may even go as far as to say that this is one of the greatest action-adventure games ever made. And it is an action-adventure game. I often see this game called a Souls-like, and it isn't. It takes more than the enemies come back when you rest to be a Souls-like. The combat is too loose, your character's too fast, you have too much at your disposal at any given time. The frequency with which you combat large numbers of enemies at once should tip you off that this isn't a Souls-like, and skill progression and movesets are far too different to be considered an RPG. So, it's not a Souls-like. And if it is, it's the best one. I mean, if you put this game in any category, it becomes one of, if not the best one. Yes, it expands on everything in the first game, but it also grabs inspirations from other games and incorporates them perfectly. They only do something when it fits and they don't force it, no pun intended. Like how they use God of War's big open zone approach to a linear game, or God of War's realm tier challenges. They also have Tears of the Kingdom-esque puzzle rooms, albeit far less frequent as this is not a puzzle game like Tears of the Kingdom is. The challenging combat with the 5 stances to choose from and the immaculate pacing is just all so perfect. And would you believe that I wasn't very excited for this game? I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I was always gonna buy it, but I kinda thought it would just be a carbon clone of the first game with a new story. Maybe a little bit of mechanical fine-tuning, and that would have been fine. You know, I played the first game back when it first came out, and then I played it again before Jedi Survivor came out. It was great, solid 8 out of 10. But holy fuck did Jedi Survivor up the ante. Not only is the gameplay fucking stellar, but the story it tells along the way is outstanding. If this had been a movie, we'd be calling this the best Star Wars movie hands down. The subversions with Bode are amazing, where even if you figure that Bode is a bad guy, you probably didn't figure that he was a Jedi. The ending is also amazing. The way the story builds and shapes characters is amazing, like laying out Bode's story, or the way the game elevates Seer without damaging the reputation of Vader in that fight is fucking unbelievable. Not to mention that Vader fight is so fucking cool. One of the best boss fights of this year. There's also us finally getting to see Force hallucinations in the actual visual media during Cal's fight with Dagan. Just fucking Christ, this game is amazing. It's so fucking amazing to play. It's so fucking valuable to Star Wars as an IP. It's very easily the best Star Wars game ever made. It's not even close. And as I said, as it stands now, it's one of the best action adventure games ever. If you think it's a Souls-like, it's also the best Souls-like. But it's not a Souls-like. It's just outstanding. It's game of the fucking year. And if you are a Star Wars fan and you haven't played it, go do that. You are doing yourself a disservice by not playing Jedi Survivor. And what's craziest about all of it is that with everything they did, they left room for more. Not just narratively, but in the gameplay. It felt like they were holding things back from us, saving ideas. And for a game this good to leave room to go up, that's just unfucking believable. I know I'm not supposed to feel that way. Star Wars is too popular outside of video games, so it can't come in and have the best video game too, but I'm just being honest. I can't wait for the next one. But there you have it, the top 10 best games of 2023 according to Waifu Bellector. I know you disagree. I know my list was supposed to have Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate at the top. I was supposed to remove at least 4 of these games off my list completely. I was supposed to have Sea of Stars and Armored Core because nostalgia and FromSoft. I know, man, I know. But just go check out IGN or something. I'm sure they've got you covered. Or feel free to hop in the comments and tell me how stupid and wrong I am. There's also an option to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. But, you know, whatever you choose to do, thanks for watching. Until next time, I am Waifu Bellector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and 2023 is the best year in gaming history. Goodbye.